Broads Media.
Oh, Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman. It's outrageous what this guy does. Okay, let me give you a little rundown. I recorded a show on what happened day 2, drafting Tyler Steen and drafting Sidney Brown as well. As I was exporting it, I got the big bomb on my phone that said the Eagles are trading a third-round pick in next year's draft for a fourth-rounder this year. You're like, hold on a second. That screams Howie Roseman sees somebody on that board that he's willing to go after. Let's see what it's all about. Wow, Ringo is a stud, man. I'm so stoked. He's 20 years old. He played at Georgia with that program, made some big plays on a big stage, and I'm thrilled. I think that's tremendous value, and think about what this kid can grow into as well. Darius Slay, James Bradbury, he's 20 years old and gets the chance to work with this organization. I am stoked thinking about it. So I know Howie's probably going to wheel and deal more throughout the day. I just wanted to make sure I plug this in the beginning because, come on, man. I mean, I'm stoked for this pick. This is insane. It's insane. It's insane. I love what they have done to this point, and I can't rule out any more greatness happening here because it seems like that's going on this weekend. Crazy. We'll discuss what happens in day 3 as well, but I want to make sure I can get up my thoughts on what happened with the third round and drafting your lineman, drafting your safety. Wow. I'm kind of lost for words right now. Wow. Enjoy the show. What is going on, everybody? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Broads. Let's talk about day 2 for Howie Roseman. And initially, I thought, bang, he grabbed 2 positions of need. Both of these players, in theory, have a chance to compete for a starting job next season. Right now at right guard, sure, I think Cam Jurgens has a little bit of an advantage because he was here last season. He got a year to adapt to the NFL life. But drafting Tyler Steen with your first third-round pick, I think is a great idea. You get an Alabama offensive lineman. Jeff Stoutland's going to do some dirty work with him in the trenches to make sure that he blossoms into something solid. You just know it. Now, they listed him as a guard. He played tackle in his college career. He was at Vanderbilt prior to going to Alabama. So he is an established college starter who played a lot of time, which can pay off dividends for just being a mature athlete at this point in his career. It seems like they want to build with versatility, see if he can do some tackle and guard, but guard being the emphasis. Right guard's wide open. He's bigger than Cam Jurgens. Like I said, I give the nod towards Cam Jurgens right now, but there's nothing wrong with having 1, healthy competition, and 2, a lot of bodies just in case something goes down. Lane Johnson, abdomen. Lane Johnson, ankle. Who knows? Landon Dickerson. I'm not happy to be discussing things that suck when it comes to watching your football team. I don't like thinking about injuries, but we cannot pretend like going to the Super Bowl and having all your starters is the norm. Last year was unbelievable that you had that many of your starters available for you that deep into the season. That's what makes it even more painful that you didn't finish the job, that you weren't hoisting the Lombardi trophy. That eats me alive because I know it's so rare and the odds are so minuscule to, 1, even get to the Super Bowl, but 2, when you're there, guys are playing. And even if they are a bit banged up, Lane Johnson's still a dog. All of this hurts my brain. But at the end of the day, it's hard to knock going to one of the best programs in the country and looking at a player who helped keep Bryce Young, the number 1 overall pick in the draft, upright. You go to Nick Saban, you go to Georgia, you go to Kirby Smart, good things happen. Now that's multiple years in a row. Howie starts plucking on day 2, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Tyler Steen. I can't knock it. Because the offensive line here starts it all. There's so much talent. There really is. But I've just seen so much poor offensive line play around the league when it's a bye week and the Eagles aren't playing, or let's say they get the Sunday night football game because everybody wants their eyes on such phenomenal squads. So it's like, hey, you're constantly getting the primetime opportunity. So it's 1 o'clock on Red Zone. What the hell is that garbage? What the hell is going on with that offensive line? What is going on with that right side? The quarterback keeps getting flushed and he's got no chance. He's got no time. Of course he's going to get drilled and pummeled into the ground. Joe Burrow over the years, he's the outlier. Getting sacked 76 times but winning an AFC championship. It just doesn't make any sense. Keep replenishing. And keep snagging guys that play at big schools. I like the pick. And I think that you have a good size, 6'6", big body. All I know is they breed animals. That's the truth. Landon Dickerson. Do you see what he's doing out there? Do you see what the left side of this line is like? Mailata and Landon Dickerson, for years to come, will pummel you into the ground. You know how we constantly see clips of Jason Kelce getting to the second level? And you watch him blow up multiple players? While Miles Sanders is trying to dance around and find a hole, or Kenneth Gainwell has his head down and his legs are churning. Mailata and Landon Dickerson, for years, will be continuing that type of intensity, while Jalen Hurts feels comfortable as hell. Finding that similar structure for your right side and eventually replacing Jason Kelce with the Cam Jurgens, although we thought already at this point we would have had that replacement. You've drafted 3 replacements to this point, and Jason Kelce is still here and still doing it at the highest level. I swear I'm watching the best version of Jason Kelce, which is no knock on some previous seasons. I just think the guy hasn't slowed down a lick yet. Which makes me wonder, will it ever? Will he be 76 just throwing guys down with one forearm? I can't rule it out. But one day, if I close my eyes and eventually knowing it will happen, maybe he's 86. I don't know. But one day, unfortunately, it will happen. Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Tyler Steen, and then what you do at right tackle, we'll figure that out. But I love the fact that you can see replacements in such a important role. You don't wait. That's when you get yourself into trouble. You don't wait until it's goodbye, and then you're scrambling. Then you're figuring it out. No, you get these guys rolling, so when it is time, they're prepared to step in and be fantastic. Some of the players just have it. Like Landon Dickerson was a phenomenal football player. The reason why there was a knock on him at the time of the draft was he had every surgery under the sun. All of his knees, his wrist, his this, his that, his that, his that. The list, the injury list went 70 pages. As you can tell, I'm just throwing all sorts of numbers out there today that makes no sense. But I think you understand my point. He had such an unbelievable skill set. There were just questions on, will he be available for you? Or is he constantly on crutches? Is there constantly surgery? Which is a fair concern because it really has been A lot. It wasn't a tiny bit. It wasn't minor injuries. They were severe, and there were multiple severe injuries. But, you kind of look at the future, and you know that this team runs off of the trenches. And on both sides of the football now, there's a lot of great players, young players with intense ceilings. Like, teams around the league should be worried about the next few years, not only because of the right now, but how they build and how they form these guys into absolute studs. It's not going to stop. It will bleed right into the next regime, even though the regime, in my eyes, are going to be staying the same from a front office, and who knows with the coach. They do have a lot of coaches over the last few years, even within all of their great success. But ultimately, when I say regime, I'm talking more about the roster flipping over. When it turns the new page, when it's a new leaf, it's still going to have very similar traits. It would just be different people plugged in, and I'm seeing that right now. How can you not be happy as a Philadelphia Eagles fan? How can you not be stoked knowing that their blueprint makes a lot of sense? You question some teams, where are they going here? What the hell are the Detroit Lions doing? Do the Atlanta Falcons even have a quarterback? Absolutely not. But hey, at least they have Bijan Robinson, which is stupid. You scratch your head. In what world are they trying to do this? What are they trying to do? We get it here. Which brings me to Sidney Brown, a safety who has a chance to compete for a starting job right from the rip. Reed Blankenship, tremendous story. And once again, guys who have been here get more of an advantage. But that could change within one day at training camp. That could change within 2 days when you realize that another player steps up. Brown, Illinois, another vet in the college game. Played a lot of college football. Apparently, he brings the energy, man. The guy brings the physicality. He'll be mean. Doesn't lack any sort of confidence. Apparently, when he went to the media and spoke to the media, I guess there was some disconnection problems, or there was some issues with the Zoom. But the little amount of time they were able to speak with him, he was saying, no one's more prepared than me. No one studies more than me. So he has that version of work ethic to the point where, I guess it's breaking news to Eagles fans and to the media who covers the team that he was labeled a Red Star player on their draft board. And a Red Star player indicates someone that they believe has the right work ethic, has good football character, fits the city of Philadelphia. So if there ever is a battle between what person are we going to select here, and it's a very close situation between two players, they will lean more towards the Red Star guy. I guess that's the best way to describe what that means, and he fell into that category. I think Edmonds, knowing he played under Mike Tomlin, intrigues me just as a solid option for what you have right now in your secondary, but I think you can have good competition, and I watched the Kansas City Chiefs win with youth back there on their defense. Now, to be fair, the Eagles' offense scored 35 points, and they were insane. The Eagles as a team really were able to put a lot of success on the offensive side of the football, right? So 35 points wins you a championship all the time, except for one time, which please keep putting that knife into my back and turning it, why don't you? Because that is what it feels like today. A lot of negative thoughts sprinkled in here. Up double digits, Super Bowl. Oh, just sickening. Just sickening. But I don't know if that played a role at all. And, well, the Chiefs did this. It's a copycat league. At the same time, though, you know what the Eagles believe in, and you know where they may try and peel back a bit. Linebacker, not the best for them when maximizing assets. Safety, they can try and sneak around with not doing too much there. not spending too much of the big bucks. I like Edmonds. You play for Mike Tomlin for a few years in the NFL. I think there's something to this. To be fair, they gave him the 1-year deal, and then they elected to, not that they elected the Eagles to get him, but the Eagles were able to get him. There's something to be said about players being available, but also, how many times are there players available because people make mistakes? How come certain guys slip in the draft? Because there's doubts and there's concerns and there's questions. But the athlete flips them to double bird, and then they go to a different organization and ball out and have big years and say, see what you missed out on? That also happens. 1-year prove-it deals. It inspires people. They're trying to earn another contract. They know that their NFL life is on life support to a certain degree. I don't know. Then you get the Rasul Douglas story. Couldn't do a damn thing here. Goes to Green Bay. I swear every time I watch Green Bay play, he's getting a pick six or there's a huge interception. Rasul Douglas, he changes the field. He flips the field. Now Aaron Rodgers gets the ball back at the 20. Anyway, didn't expect Rasul Douglas to make today's show. But he makes plays, this kid. 6 interceptions, a pick six, forced fumble, and a fumble return for 6. So, he's going to be active. It seems like an in-your-face type of guy. A pest. An annoying player. Just physical, always there, aggravating you. And we'll see what type of role he can earn here. There's only a few spots, if you look at the roster, that's going to have some bigger discussion during the training camp period. Right guard, because of Isaac Seumalo no longer being here. And safety. And there's some others. You did lose some linebacker play, but Nakobe Dean should be slotted into one of them, and then you did make a signing. By the way, I think Justin Evans is another name in the safety department. Morrow is a name that they picked up as well. So, not that there's massive competition around the board. I'm excited for Nakobe Dean. I know I've kind of been a broken record on that one, but I'm just stoked, and I'm excited. I love listening to these new players speak. You had Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter. They were at a press conference yesterday that was a bit delayed. We were supposed to get to it at 5:30 on the Fanatic. It ended up going, I think, around 6:30. So I don't know what the hell the delay was. I don't know if they even announced why there was a delay or apologized for it. But here we are trying to set up our break so we can get to it on time. And then it starts going deeper and deeper, and our show's going to end. Oh, man, it's never easy in this business. I promise you that. It's never easy. But with Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith, man, I'll tell you what, I really love what I think Nolan Smith can be from a leadership standpoint. I think there's something in him. There's just a feel on the way that he carries himself, the way that he speaks, the way that he's speaking about Jalen Carter and the situation and taking that role and, watching out for his brother and all that stuff, like watching out for his boy. Jalen Carter's his boy. He understands what happened, but he's here to help him through these tough times while also balancing his welcome to the NFL moment. But there was that short little video. James Palmer tweeted it out. A behind the scenes. I think the way he labeled it was a fly on the wall level of conversation between Sirianni, Carter, and Nolan Smith. And it was pretty cool just to see them react. Like, hey, how's it going? Look, we're going to love one another. We're going to communicate. We're going to have a special bond. But it will be commanding. And we're going to have fun. And we're going to smile. It will be commanding. And that's the Nick Sirianni way. It clearly worked. They clearly respond to that as a core, as a locker room. But to see him dap up JC, see him dap up Nolan Smith, and to hear the way that Nolan Smith talks, I think I see something in him and Nakobe Dean. I like the way they carry themselves. And I like Jalen Carter too. I'm not saying I don't. I'm a huge fan. He will wreck football games. But there's something between Nolan Smith and Nakobe Dean that hits me a certain type of way. And I'm talking less about on-the-field football product, more about the way they speak, their demeanor, their body language, the way they carry themselves. It has sort of a different feeling. And that doesn't mean other guys can't be fantastic on the field. Brandon Graham carries himself a certain type of way. There's something to be said about the way he plays the game and the way that he leads. It's just kind of the way that I feel when I hear and see things about those two players, and also when I'm trying to project what the future of Philadelphia Eagles football looks like. I'm also living in the now, though. I'm not trying to overlook a Super Bowl winning team having a top 10 pick in the NFL draft and then landing arguably the best talent in the draft, and then also a player who probably should have went top 15, snagging him at 30. And then Howie makes a trade in day 2 to pick up some other picks for day 3 and all that, and we'll see what ends up happening in day 3 in those later rounds. But for him, in the early stages of day 3 to do what he does, round 3, day 2, to do what he does is solid, man. I can get behind all of it, and I think the logic is fair and clean from Howie Roseman. Okay. We have some draft hotline calls, so we will take these draft hotline calls. Let's do this. Oh, hold on. This is on me. I don't know if you guys heard that or not. It was playing through my computer and not through my headset. Here we go.
What an insane day 1 of the draft for the Philadelphia Eagles. We get Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. Like, what? Jalen Carter might be the best player in the draft, and Nolan Smith should have been a top 12, top 15 pick and has comparisons to Hassan Reddick. We're going to have Hassan Reddick, Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat, and Nolan Smith off the edge with Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter up the middle in the D-line. Good luck stopping that. Absolutely home run. Hoping maybe day 2 we can get a running back in the draft, maybe a linebacker or a safety. But absolute home run. I thought it'd be too good to be true to get both of them. Especially Nolan Smith falling to 30 is outrageous. Fly, Eagles, fly.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I get excited thinking about it, too. I just love knowing how well they are set up for a real long journey. Doesn't mean every year's perfect. Doesn't mean there's not some things that are upsetting throughout a 10-year window. But you can't look at this roster and actually feel negative. Since the times of the Howie Roseman failures, of Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson and all of that, it's been really solid to this point. Now, I guess you don't know what Jordan Davis is, and you don't know what Cam Jurgens is yet, but I don't think it's ridiculous that the Eagles fans can project that they will be solid players. Now, let's say Jordan Davis ends up not being what you once anticipated. Okay, that's part of your job to do the research as a staff, as scouts, as a front office. Also, though, going to Georgia and landing one of their best defensive linemen, sometimes things don't work out for many different reasons. I don't hate going to Georgia, getting one of their best defensive tackles, and if that doesn't work out, it's hard to go, well, I mean, how stupid could you be? It's not Jalen Reagor. Andre Dillard didn't work out. Shocking, because many tackles do here. But going to Washington, that early first round, I think there's more of a chance to rip that or discuss that. If it was a Georgia tackle, if it was an Alabama tackle, if it was some other players, maybe, it's like sometimes you go to the well, and you know the well has worked out for many, many football teams, and you know all they do is constantly win, and it's not maybe what you thought. But I don't hate the logic. I don't know what Jordan Davis is. I'm just saying I'm using him as the example because he's so fresh and raw into his career. But that's also the beauty of why this thing continues to run the way that it does, is because, you don't ask these defensive players to go out there for 100% of the snaps and then dominate. It is similar to Georgia, where there's so many guys that sometimes it's hard to get all of the massive players out there on the field. It's a big rotation because the guy who's a freshman will be a top 10 pick, but there's a sophomore on the team that's playing who will be a top 10 pick. So some of the numbers are all out of whack because that player, if played on a different team, maybe would have more stats on the stat sheet. Maybe not as much winning, maybe not as much pedigree because they didn't go to a Georgia, but the stats are higher. It's a weird balance. But I'm just as excited as that caller was because I see something awesome here.
I don't think there's any Eagle fans after round one that honestly can be upset. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the night started with that Cardinal tampering thing with Gannon, and they ended up with a better third-round pick than they originally had. Then you get Jalen Carter at a spot where you didn't think he would be, and all you had to do was trade a fourth-rounder from next year to get him. Then Nolan Smith falls in your lap at 30. I think picking him around 10 would have been way too high, but at 30, you take it. The bottom line is you ended up with two guys who were going to make immediate day one impact. Now, I'm assuming that over the next 2 days to continue the Georgia Bulldog East theme, that they draft Keele Ringo and Stetson Bennett. The only other main question I have is what's Howie going to do about day 3 and the lack thereof of picks?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe he just realized, because that's a fair question, especially prior to day 2 and seeing that they do trade down, even though that was kind of probably written in stone that he would do that to some degree. And I think he knocked that out of the park as well. But, maybe he just goes this year, which is out of character for Howie. And we'll see what happens in day 3, but they are very limited. Look what we got. If this year I told you, even with a bunch of 6s, a bunch of 5s, a bunch of 7s, let's say they did have those. They don't, but let's say they do. We walked away with Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Tyler Steen, and then Sidney Brown. We like where we're at. The rest is an added bonus. He was probably feeling so good after day 1 that it settled things down. How the board fell day 1, I think, put Howie in a different mental space. Now, he's aggressive. Doesn't seem like he's ever really satisfied. One thing I appreciate about Howie is after they did lose, he seemed to be the most aggravated and most upset and most hurt because I think he realized I put together the best roster that I ever could. I put together the best roster in the NFL. And we still didn't win. Like, he felt the pain, and I'm sure that drives him to get another Super Bowl because in his mind, he probably thought there's no way in hell we lose this game. This team is too special. And he was right to think that. They were up double digits at half, and then it just slipped because Jonathan Gannon's a fraud. Marcus Hayes is reporting, not that I'm the biggest Marcus Hayes guy in the world, but the Eagles were disappointed in Jonathan Gannon and thought that maybe he wasn't as engaged and locked in during Super Bowl week because of the way that the tampering happened with Arizona. Look, you're getting a head coaching job. You're speaking to them early. You have a job to do, though. But there's only so many jobs in the NFL for a head coach, and you're getting one. I think the guy's an absolute liar, Jonathan Gannon. And he hurt you. He hurt you. But anyway, let's take a final one here.
Typical Howie Roseman. What he does great in cap, he does not do in drafts. Garbage. I do believe that, yes, you needed tackle depth, and yes, I do believe that you needed another corner, but Sidney Brown is not the one. Neither did I think Keele Ringo was either. I think he's overhyped. But both picks suck. I don't like either one. And to top it all off, yes, the first round sucked too. Bye.
I'm just happy I'm not you. Unfair to say. So, they needed lineman depth. So they went to Alabama and got lineman depth. They needed help in the secondary. They got help in the secondary. Keep in mind, these are third-round picks, not first-round picks. So we'll see what specifically a safety in the third round becomes. Because if you look statistically at hit rates as these picks go down the list, yeah, I mean, it gets smaller and smaller. You're acting like there's 5 all-pro safeties hanging out there, and the Eagles selected Sidney Brown when there were 5 or 6 or 7 all-pros just smacking them in the face. It starts to become more of a flyer at certain times of the draft. I'd say that third round really shifts after the first and second. Think about how different it is from a feeling in the top of the second round, middle of the second round to mid-third round. But anyway, I digress. He targeted all the areas that you said he needed to target. But you hate everything. They needed defensive line depth. They got the best defensive tackle in the draft. Not good enough. Nolan Smith, projected to go way earlier, falls to you at 30. You hate it. Need more offensive linemen. Get one from one of the best I hate saying that, but best programs in the country. You hate it. Yeah, I mean, look. God bless you. I'm rooting for you to find happiness in life. I wish you the best. Thank you guys all so much. Talk to you later.